Welcome back, everyone. In today's anime recap, we'll be taking a look at The Eminence in Shadow. It begins with the blaring of an alarm, waking Nishino. She gets ready for school, and right before she heads out, we briefly see a flashback. The flashback shows eager reporters lurking around her large house, vying to talk to her. The flashback momentarily takes Nishino's breath away, but she snaps out of it when her chauffeur calls her name and beckons her to the car. The view of the house, the chauffeur, and the high-class car show us that Nishino clearly comes from a wealthy family. As Nishino makes her way to school, we see a shadowy van following them in the distance. But Nishino and the chauffeur are seemingly unaware. Nishino's arrival at school draws attention and a crowd, and all the students clamor for Nishino's attention. All she offers them is a small, clearly rehearsed smile. The only one to get a true response out of her is Kagano, when she runs into him at the entrance. Nishino loathes Kagano. He falls behind her in every way, including athletically, academically, and physically. She offers him a fake smile and wishes him good morning, despite the fact that they've been sitting next to one another in class for months, and he still pronounces her name wrong. Nishino can't help but notice that while all her other classmates shower her with attention, Kagano doesn't seem to care about her or her success. While all the other students praise Nishino for her leading role in an upcoming television program, Kagano ignores her. Little does Nishino know, Kagano is constantly working on himself. While he appears disinterested, he's actually training his body in small ways. Be it wrist weights under his uniform or his grip trainer at lunch, he's always training in some way. We cut to the lunchroom, and Nishino is taking a break in the restroom by herself. She's daydreaming, thinking about the incident that made her hide from the limelight a few years back. Due to her hectic schedule, Nishino occasionally has to stay back for makeup lessons. One day, Kagano is also sticking around after school to help a teacher. As it gets later in the evening, Nishino finally finishes up her lesson. She calls her driver, but he doesn't answer. Nishino is unaware that her driver is currently being attacked by the same group we saw following them that morning. In a hurry to get home, Nishino decides to walk back alone instead of waiting around. She's clearly nervous. This is the first time she's walked back by herself since the scandal that happened all those years ago. Nishino hears some footsteps and is immediately on edge, but tries to relax when she turns around and nobody is there. As she turns back around to continue her journey home, the same people who ambushed her driver jump out and kidnap her. She quickly loses consciousness, but right before she does, she spots Kagano calmly watching the entire incident a few steps away. Nishino wakes up with her legs and arms tied and a gag in her mouth, clearly in some sort of abandoned, run-down building. Her kidnappers taunt her and tell her a ransom note has been sent to her father, and once they get the money they've asked for, she'll be free to go. The kidnappers mention that her father has a lot of enemies, perhaps implying he's the reason they've gone after her. The kidnappers continue to argue, and it cuts to Kagano calmly watching the entire scene from outside. Kagano removes his wrist weights and pulls out some scary-looking equipment from his backpack. Back inside, one of the criminals begins harassing Nishino. Kagano smoothly drops down from the ceiling skylight and introduces himself as the stylish ruffian slayer. The kidnapper tries to shoot Kagano, but he easily defeats it by throwing a shard of glass at the criminal, making him drop the gun and fall back. Kagano quickly rushes the attacker and knocks him out. The other attacker realizes Kagano is a problem for them, so he ditches his gun and pulls out a knife. The kidnapper also reveals that he's ex-military and these kidnappings were getting too easy for him, and he looks excited by the idea of a fight with the stylish ruffian slayer. A fight between the two ensues. Kagano tries to hold off the military man with his dual-handled crowbar, but the kidnapper is too strong and sends Kagano flying with a stream of punches. Kagano adjusts his grip and instantly overtakes the criminal. Kagano reveals that he's had a lot of practice doing this, and the criminal realizes the name Stylish Ruffian Slayer was a lie. Kagano is actually the notorious Balaclava Berserker. The criminal scrambles for his gun, realizing he's outmatched. But Kagano easily knocks it away. He then overtakes the kidnappers with ease and beats them brutally. After the criminals are taken care of, Kagano, still wearing his mask, approaches Nishino with his blade ready. She fears for her life, but Kagano unties her and tells her to be more careful. He then alerts the police and disappears into the night. The very next day, Nishino shows up to school like nothing happened. She greets Kagano at the entrance as usual, since she doesn't know he's the one who saved her. But this time, he gets her name right. She begins to see him in a new light, and gets a feeling that Kagano has something to hide, just like her. Later on, we see Kagano having an intense moment. He ends up in front of a truck hurtling towards him, and Kagano begins to reflect on his life. He always wanted to be stronger, not this mediocre side character, but it's never enough. He might be able to hold his own sometimes, but he knows he would be useless in the face of real danger, like a bomb or an army. As the truck gets closer and closer, his last thoughts are that he wants to be the strongest fighter and save the world. The truck hits him, but instead of dying, Kagano is reincarnated into a new world as a baby. Kagano is now known as Sid, the son of a wealthy businessman. Sid's father reveals that his family are known as the Dark Knights and have been leading the Dark Knights for ages. The Dark Knights are magical swordsmen. The family has extremely high hopes for Sid's sister, Claire. She's the heir and appears to be the most powerful of them all. Meanwhile, Sid is still barely better than average in public, set on staying in the background and not drawing attention to himself as he grows up. But at night, Sid utilizes his immense power, including his terrifying slime sword, seeking out criminals and filth within the city. While sorting out some criminals' possessions, he comes across a possessed life form. He keeps it with him and carries it everywhere, even experimenting on it. After some time, he accidentally undoes the curse on it, and the hideous item transforms into a pretty elfish woman. He's obviously confused, but uses this as his chance to create his new persona, the Eminence in the Shadow. When the girl wakes up, Sid introduces himself and begins to explain that the cult of Diablos are the ones who placed a curse upon her and others like her, aiming to create an overwhelming demon. He introduces himself as Shadow. After wrapping up his lie, Sid asks the girl to join him in his quest against the cult. She accepts but insists they need to add more members to the newly established Shadow Garden. Since she's the first member of the group after Sid, her name is Alpha. A few years pass, and Sid is now 13 and still appearing average to the world, allowing Claire to beat him whenever they practice sparring. When noble Dark Knights turn 15, they have to attend an academy for Dark Knights in the capital and move away from their family. Claire is about to attend, but on the night before she is set to leave, she is kidnapped. Sid shifts to Shadow, the powerful leader of Shadow Garden, and uses his power to get to work on finding Claire. Over the years, Shadow Garden has grown and become more powerful. Alpha begins searching for Claire, but since she still believes the lie Sid told her when she woke up from her possession, she still thinks the cult of Diablos is behind Claire's disappearance. Beta, a new member, shows Sid a map of possible locations his sister is in. He seemingly throws a small sword at random and it lands on a location they didn't expect. However, the location does actually have a secret hideout. Sid orders Beta to get the group together so they can embark on their rescue mission. At the hideout, we see Claire locked up, chains from the ceiling binding her magic. Viscount Grease is the one holding her hostage, and even in her weakened form, she manages to avoid his attacks and lunges. In passing, Claire reveals that Sid is the one who taught her fighting skills. Grease then threatens to target Sid next, and Claire is enraged. She breaks out of her chains, but Grease is faster than she is and punches her out before she can really cause a scene. At that moment, Grease is alerted that 7 attackers have found the hideout. The scene cuts to the 7 female members of Shadow Garden easily overtaking Grease's men, to Grease's disbelief. Facing Grease amongst the bodies of his men, Alpha reveals that they are the Shadow Garden and mentions their desire to take down the cult of Diablos. Surprisingly, Grease seems to know of the cult, hinting that maybe it isn't just a fable. Grease attacks Alpha and the rest of the Shadow Garden, but he's no match for them. He swallows a pill that enhances his powers, and he's able to run away from Alpha. The all-female Shadows don't pursue Grease and instead rush to free Claire. Alpha mentions that Grease is headed right towards Shadow himself, so there's no need for them to get involved. Shadow is actually just exploring the tunnels, not realizing Grease is coming right for him. Grease runs right to Shadow and the two begin to fight. Naturally, Grease can't overtake Shadow at all. Grease is so pathetic that Shadow taunts him by trying to teach him how to fight mid-combat. Grease refuses to give up despite being brutally cut up and insists that no matter how much Shadow tries, he will never rid the world of evil. Shadow insists he will just try harder. Grease is overwhelmed and takes more of the magic-enhancing medicine. His physical form becomes huge, but he gets sloppy and enraged and is still no match for Shadow. Shadow kills him, and Grease dies wondering if Shadow can overcome the darkness. The next day, Claire returns home, grumpy but unharmed after the entire incident. She sets off for the Dark Knight Academy, the entire ordeal seemingly in the past. Sid is surprised when the members of the Shadow Garden tell him they are leaving him too, insisting they'll be better equipped to find and beat the Cult of Diablos if they split up. Sid doesn't buy it and just thinks they want their freedom. 2 years pass and Sid is now 15 and on his way to join his sister at the Royal Knight Academy. He keeps up his side character front at the academy and befriends other seemingly small and unremarkable individuals. On a train ride to school, one of his friends reminds Sid of a bet he made. The one who fails their recent test has to tell Princess Alexia, the most popular and beautiful girl at the academy, that they are in love with her. Of course, Sid loses the bet, but Sid is actually excited and approaches Alexia later in the day. He's shaking and clearly nervous, unable to even look Alexia in the eye. But to everyone's surprise, Alexia doesn't reject Sid and says she's been waiting for someone like him. Word quickly gets around the school and people begin to wonder about Sid. Nobody can believe a nobody like him got Princess Alexia's attention. During lunch, all the guys in the cafeteria are shooting Sid death glares, but he doesn't seem to notice. Sid and his friends are just discussing Sid's good luck when Alexia comes over and joins them. Everyone in the room, including Sid and his pals, are shocked. Sid is secretly hoping Alexia is here to break up with him because he doesn't like all the attention their relationship has brought. He tries to be unappealing by messily eating her food, but she doesn't seem to notice and invites him to join her in the royal section of their fencing class, which she pulls strings to get him into. During the class, Sid realizes that Alexia isn't much of a fencer, and he notices she doesn't use any magic. Alexia didn't enjoy sparring with Sid, but still uses the class as an opportunity to tell their advisor Xenon that she's dating Sid. But Xenon secretly reveals that he and Alexia are actually betrothed, and Alexia is using Sid to get out of the betrothal. Sid confronts Alexia and she confesses, and Sid insists he doesn't want to be involved. Alexia reveals that Sid's friends told her the truth about Sid's proposal being a joke, and Alexia insists that if Sid backs out of their arrangement, she'll reveal his bet to the entire school, making him look like a jerk to everyone. Alexia also offers him money to continue the charade, and since he needs money to continue acting as Shadow, he reluctantly accepts her proposal. He plays his part well, and the couple appears in public very often. But soon enough, Sid and Alexia's fake relationship runs its course. The two get in an argument after fencing one day, and they decide to call it off. Sid is relieved, looking forward to returning to a normal life as a nobody. However, as Sid enters school the next day, Xenon is a mess and tells Sid that the princess never got back to her dorm room and he's the main suspect in their kidnapping investigation since she was last seen with Sid. The episode ends with Sid surrounded by Dark Knights, ready to attack. Should we add a part 2 to this? Leave a comment down below if you think so, and don't forget to like and subscribe. See you all soon!